好，我今日真欢喜会当介绍 Charlene Chan。Charlene Chan 是李冰冰甲陈通勇的照片。咱伊今日是为Africa 为 Kenya 来，甲人讲伊的故事，伊的故事是真 interesting 的故事。伊是今日要甲人讲啲英语是叫 Going Beyond Your Comfort Zone。迄啲台话就是讲，叫你创你无逐工你创的物件。我无逐工你创的是，我逐工啉者，我今日要啉咖啡。伊无逐工你创的，伊是因为住伫美国，即马伊去到Africa， 所以足够的。伊是开始伊Duke University 读Bachelor of Science 伫 Psychology 甲 Computer Science。伊转咧去一间真大间的 consulting company， 真有名叫 Deloitte Consulting 伫 Boston。伊转咧去读 Masters of Business Administration 伫 University of California Berkeley。伊伫Berkeley 读，伊转咧兴趣 Africa 的代志。伊就伫遐开始去做 Africa 的代志。转咧去伊毕业，转咧即马是。伫一间叫 Kickstart International， 是一个 marketing 甲 innovation 的头。这个公司是甲人去做人像咧人情交人情吼，叫人情。伊是甲因走创迄人情，互伊成功。So I am very pleased this morning to be able to introduce to you Charlene Chan. Charlene Chan is the daughter of Li Fengfeng and Chen Tongyong. She is going to be speaking to us about going beyond your comfort zone. In reading her biography, she certainly is inspirational. She has been living and working for the past 3 years in Kenya as the head of marketing and innovation in the Nairobi office for Kickstart International, they are a non-profit social enterprise whose mission is to promote sustainable economic growth and employment by developing and promoting technologies such as human-powered irrigation pumps that empower small-scale farmers to increase their income through farming as a business. She started as getting a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Computer Science from Duke University. She then became an IT consultant at Deloitte Consulting in Boston, where she then pursued her MBA at the University of California in Berkeley. While earning her MBA, she became interested and started working in West and East Africa. And has led her to be the head of marketing and innovation. So she is going to speak to us today about her very inspiring journey from the US all the way to where she is now in Africa. I, for one, am quite excited about this because going beyond my comfort zone involves drinking, coffee instead of tea in the morning. So without further ado, Charlene Chan.
Charlene Chan, 陈东龙甲欢欢的查某囝，我真欢喜，真公平来NATWA演讲。虽然我会讲听台湾话，但是我无啥晓讲。So this is why I'm speaking in English. In 1971, my parents, Sindonglong Li Huanhuan, left Taiwan to start a new life in the United States. They, like all of you first-generation Taiwanese immigrants, left behind their family, friends, and homeland in order to provide their yet unborn children with the best personal, academic, and professional opportunities possible.
1971.
So let me ask you, I wanted to make this a bit more interactive. When you moved to the United States, what did you dream that your sons and daughters would become? Just shout out.
Lawyer.
Okay, I heard doctors, lawyers. Doctors. Anything else?
Any profession.
Oh, any profession. That's very open-minded. Okay. I imagine doctors, scientists.
Very interesting.
So I can pretty much guess that most of you, in fact, none of you, including my own parents, dare dream that your daughter would ever leave behind the American dream to work in sub-Saharan Africa, or Huichu. I'm honored today to speak to you about my story of how I did exactly that. Believe it or not, I actually started out on a fairly Taiwanese-friendly, Taiwanese-approved career path. My tech-savvy father instilled in me a keen love of computers. So I took my first programming class in high school and ended up majoring in computer science and psychology at Duke University. I spent my summers interning at an internet startup, at Microsoft, and at Eli Lilly, which is a pharmaceutical company best known for producing Prozac. I then spent the next 4 years as a system analyst at Deloitte Consulting, one of the largest professional services firms in the world. It was a very comfortable life once I adjusted to sleeping in a hotel 3 nights a week and flying every single Monday and Thursday. I had bright colleagues, talented managers, and I had the opportunity to work across many industries serving Fortune 500 companies. Yet, something was missing. I felt like the work that I was doing wasn't really helping people. So I started spending a lot of my free time volunteering with nonprofit organizations. I organized career development events for Asian American women in high school and college through an organization called ASPIRE, which stands for Asian Sisters Participating in Reaching Excellence. I started a computer literacy program for Asian immigrants through the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center. I became a camp counselor and eventually program director at the annual TAF, or Taiwanese American Foundation, summer conference that had a tremendous impact on my life as a high schooler. So while designing and implementing call center applications was intellectually challenging, it was the volunteer work that truly gave me personal fulfillment. As the years passed by, a little voice inside me grew louder and louder. Wouldn't it be amazing if I could make social impact a part of my everyday life instead of just nights and weekends? So I started thinking about leaving the comfort zone of Deloitte. Although I started an application to the Peace Corps, I decided to get my MBA in order to round out my education. I was confident in information technology, but I hardly knew anything about finance, accounting, supply chain management, marketing, sales, human resources. So I entered business school considering essentially 3 options. I considered domestic nonprofit management, corporate social responsibility, or business and technology in developing countries. MBA students who are career switchers often use their summer internship to explore new career paths before committing to full-time opportunities. it would be prudent to discover sooner than later whether or not you can cut it as an investment banker on Wall Street, or say whether or not you could live in Africa. I was lucky enough to travel a lot with my family growing up, but mostly to developed countries in Asia and Europe. My first exposure to poverty was through church mission trips to Juarez, Mexico, the Caribbean island of Trinidad, and a village in rural Guatemala. I had never been to Africa and barely knew anyone who had. All I knew was that billions of dollars of foreign aid had been poured into a continent with seemingly very little to show. I was intrigued by the idea of social entrepreneurship, which is the idea of building organizations with social missions at their core, but operating as businesses, not charities. So I decided to give Liju a shot. I found a summer internship in Ghana, a country in West Africa. So now we're back to interaction. Tell me, what do you think when you think of Liju or Africa? Corruption, poverty,
Backward.
AIDS, disease, dangerous, right?
Right.
Animals, okay, that's good too.
Yeah.
So I must confess that these were the words and images here that I also thought of when I thought of Africa. You see, foreign aid, disease, debt, rape, poverty, AIDS, famine, charity, drought. However, after spending 3 months working in Ghana, doing small to medium enterprise development work for an internet company in Accra, which is the capital of Ghana, I became incredibly inspired by all of the business opportunities that I found there. I not only found the formal sector, such as banks, and even, did you know that Ghana has a stock exchange? But I also met a lot of entrepreneurs and came across a lot of businesses that really inspired me. So I started seeing Africa in a new light. You see these positive words: trade, jobs, creativity, business, entrepreneurship, talent. I was so inspired that I decided to move back to Africa after graduating from Berkeley. I first entered development through technology. Oh, sorry, I forgot one slide. This is a picture of the company that I worked at in Ghana, which was Busy Internet, the biggest internet cafe. So through Berkeley, I spent 6 weeks working in rural Uganda, researching how small-scale farmers access information using technology as low-tech as radio and as high-tech as their mobile phones. After turning down job offers in Jordan, Nigeria, and South Africa, then I spent 5 months working in Tanzania, managing a project to allow cotton farmers to receive market prices and ask questions using their cell phones. Then, after turning down offers to work in Jordan, Nigeria, and South Africa, I finally decided to accept a job in Kenya, in East Africa, at Kickstart International, which is a non-profit social enterprise whose mission is to lift millions of people out of poverty through income-generating technologies, which you can see here. Kickstart was one of the first organizations to use a market-based approach to development, meaning that we sell our products instead of giving them away. So you can see that the irrigation pump on the left is $60, and the one on the right is $140. We have sold human-powered irrigation pumps to over 215,000 small-scale farmers, who on average own 1 to 2 acres of land and make only $2 to $3 a day. The theory of change is that when a farmer uses our moneymaker irrigation pumps to irrigate during the seasons of the year when it does not rain, he or she can grow produce year-round, selling tomatoes, cabbages, etc. when demand is high but supply is low. On average, a farmer who's making only $100 a year can increase his or her income by $750 in just 1 year. So just to help you visualize, I'd like to show you a video by one of my former colleagues speaking about the work that we do.
70% of Kenyans live in rural areas. So if we do not address poverty in the rural areas, then we will not be tackling the problem of poverty. My passion is to enable millions of farmers to get out of poverty by increasing productivity of the resources that they have. What's interesting about Kickstart is that we create income from the land that people live on. Poor people have limited amount of money, and therefore they have to make very informed choices in terms of what it is that they are going to purchase. So when we compare our farm, others in the market, ours is inexpensive. But then from the perspective of the farm, that price is still high. And that's when we need to be able to convince them to get them to really try and understand how to continue once they purchase it. The money generated from the farm is generally invested in the local economy, creating more new businesses, creating more new income, creating more new jobs, and that has a lot of effect on the local economy and the national economy. One of the things that really hits my heart is that we need to be some using their own skills, some using their own hands, using a technology that they use. That really makes all of us, the organization, feel very proud. Our hope as an organization is that we will see Africa as a continent being in a position to feed itself, to create sorts of wealth from agriculture. Because it's in Africa where we still have a lot of potential in growing agriculture in the world. And Kickstart will really want to be part of the organization to really put Africa into that spot and it's put us as a food basket as well.
You can see our pumps in action and also hear my colleague talk about the work that we do. So my work at Kickstart has been both incredibly challenging but also incredibly rewarding. In my first role as a product manager, I had the opportunity to design a financial service that allows farmers to purchase moneymaker pumps using their cell phones. One thing you may not know is that in many developing countries, the people there have leapfrogged in terms of technology. So for example, very few Kenyans have landlines, like have landline telephones, but over 70% own at least one mobile phone. They not only use their mobile phones to call and send text messages, but they also use their phones to send and receive money. They do this using a service called M-Pesa. Pesa is the Swahili word for money. Some of the challenges that I've faced in working in Africa is that many of our target customers obviously live in very rural areas. So it can take a lot of time and effort to visit them, much less try to sell them our products. I have also had to learn Swahili, which is the national language, in order to better communicate with farmers who speak little, if any, English. I wanted to give you a sample of some of the phrases. So, habari yako means, how are you? Mimi ninaitwa Charlene means, my name is Charlene. Nafanya kazi pamoja na wakulima. This means, I work with farmers. Hakuna Matata, which you might recognize from the movie The Lion King, is actually Swahili for no worries. Kwaheri means goodbye. And asante sana means thank you very much. A little over a year ago, I was promoted to become the head of marketing and innovation at Kickstart. So I currently manage a team of 4 Kenyans to run Kickstart's new product development and management, global marketing and branding, and sales strategy. This has been quite the stretch role beyond my comfort zone, because prior to Kickstart, as I mentioned earlier, I had absolutely zero experience in any of these subjects. But I am thankful that Kickstart saw potential in me and gave me the opportunity to learn and to grow. It hasn't been easy, but I've learned so much through a lot of trial and error, as well as through mentorship from my fellow senior managers, nearly all of whom are Kenyan. But personally, the hardest thing about working in Africa has been living so far from home, from my parents, my sisters, and my 6 adorable nephews and nieces. So this is the point in my speech when I thought I would explain, but good news, you don't have to move to Africa to move beyond your comfort zone. But then I realized that you already have in so many ways. By immigrating from Taiwan to North America, you left behind your comfort zone, your friends, your families, and your homes. I think about how my father's medical school textbooks were in English, how my parents immigrated to Birmingham, Alabama in 1971, just after the Civil Rights Movement, and perhaps even face more discrimination than I do in Africa, where even small children make ching-chong noises as they see me in the villages. I think about how each of you must have struggled to find that delicate balance between assimilating yourselves and your children into American culture, while still preserving and passing on your Taiwanese heritage. So first, we should celebrate this great leap of faith that all of you have taken to go beyond your comfort zone. But I encourage you to continue exploring beyond your comfort zone each and every day. Now here are 5 of the ways in which I have gone beyond my comfort zone, which I hope will encourage you to do the same in your own way. Travel off the beaten path. I have been so blessed to explore the landscape, food, and culture of over 40 countries across 6 continents. This is a shot of me scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef off of Australia. This is me in front of one of the Great Pyramids in Egypt. The ancient city of Machu Picchu in Peru. I didn't want to be paise and show you a picture of me in my swimming suit, so I did actually swim on the very edge of Victoria Falls in Zambia. Wow. So you can see on the right-hand side where the people are standing, there's a pool where you can swim, and they sort of hold you off the edge of the falls.
Wow.
So whether I've been tinker dancing in Argentina, floating in the Dead Sea in Jordan, or tracking mountain gorillas in Uganda, each trip has enriched my life with unique and unforgettable experiences. It can be frustrating to not know where you're going and to struggle to order food, much less understand what it is you're even eating. But there are countless travel guides that can help you navigate, whether you're backpacking on a budget or booking a luxury travel tour. And it's never too late. I have been so proud of my parents, who used to travel to more developed countries like Italy. This is them in front of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But over the years, they've become much, much more adventurous. They have also been to Machu Picchu in Peru. They've explored India. This is them in front of the Taj Mahal. And they spent over a month on safari in Kenya and Tanzania. So you can see them with Maasai warriors. Secondly, I've expanded beyond my comfort zone by riding strange animals. So I know this is an odd one, You might feel a loss of control. I know I certainly did when I competed in a 10-kilometer camel race, which is the bottom left-hand photo, in northern Kenya. And I've also held on for dear life to an ostrich, which is on the right-hand side. And I also do more normal things like ride horses. It can really make you feel a sense of loss of control when you ride strange animals, but it truly does empower you to see and experience the world from a new vantage point. Last month, I actually raced giraffes on horseback, which was literally breathtaking. Thirdly, I really enjoyed exploring the deep seas. As a Pisces, which is one of the water signs of the zodiac, I love being on the water, in the water, and underwater. Just as with riding animals, water sports such as kayaking, dragon boat racing, whitewater rafting, kite surfing, and scuba diving have enabled me to explore the 70% of the world that isn't land. I highly encourage you to dip a toe in the water or just dive right in. You could try something as low-key as snorkeling or as intense as cage diving with sharks, which I haven't done, but would like to. So this is a picture of me scuba diving, and then the other photo is a 30-foot whale shark, which I swam with in Tanzania, and they do not eat people. So don't worry about it. Fourth, I've explored beyond my comfort zone by committing to a physical challenge every single year since 2008. So in 2008, I ran the Nike Women's Half Marathon in San Francisco. In 2009, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the highest peak in Africa at 19,341 feet. In 2010, I climbed Mount Kenya, which is the second highest peak in Africa at 16,355 feet. In 2011, I ran the Kenya Airways Masai Mara Half Marathon. So literally you're running in an area that is frequented by animals, but I did not have to run faster than the lions. And in 2012, I competed in 2 sprint triathlons, which basically consists of 750 meters of swimming, 20 kilometers of biking, and a 5-kilometer run. I did both of these on the coast of Kenya, so you can see the children who are cheering me on. Now, mind you, I'm not a particularly athletic person. Sports weren't very big in our family. I'm the same girl who really dreaded running the mile run in PE class, and I'm the same girl who played soccer and field hockey, but never ever made the varsity team. If you told me that one day I would be a, well, very amateur triathlete, I would have laughed at you. So all it takes is a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and discipline, but I guarantee you, it is possible. And of course, a physical challenge should be appropriate to your physical ability. So, to people of my parents' generation, I might suggest that you commit to walking every day, cycle, or maybe play golf twice a month. And fifth, I really encourage you to step beyond your comfort zone by reaching out to the community beyond your community. Now, it goes without saying that you don't have to work in a developing country to serve those in greater need. Many of you in the audience are already doctors and physicians or in other careers that serve many people. And I encourage you and applaud you for continuing to do that. But there's also many, many people in greater need in our communities, in our neighborhoods. So I encourage you to volunteer. I have always lived by the Gandhi adage that to whom much has been given, much is expected. So some of you might be wondering, but truly it's because I believe that life is a precious gift a gift from your family, and a gift from God. So I've decided that as long as I have legs to walk, and eyes to see, and ears to hear, I will continue to live each day to its fullest, and I encourage you to do the same. Here are some of the other things that I would like to accomplish in my lifetime, however long. I'd like to learn Chinese. I'm ashamed to confess that I dropped out of Chinese school as a young girl. I would like to hike the pilgrimage of Santiago, which is a 30-day trek in northern Spain. I would like to climb to the base camp of Mount Everest.
Oh, wow.
I would like to travel to Antarctica, which is the 7th continent that I've never been to. I would like to learn to fly a small plane.
Wow. Thank you.
And I would love to publish a book. I also added become a doctor, but sorry, Dad, I'm just kidding. So now, I'd actually like to turn this back to you guys. I'd like each of you to take a minute or two to write down, I think the hotel's given you a little notepad, write down at least one thing that you would like to do to go beyond your comfort zone. So I'm going to give you 1 to 2 minutes, and then I'd like some people to be brave enough to share what they wrote down. Mom, that includes you. Comfort zone is sharing what you want to do in front of everyone. Just raise your hand.
Doing beyond my comfort zone. I've been thinking about doing this, but it's been pretty easy. I want to do an oral history of myself, my career, and then I am going to try to write a book.
Anyone else?
Well, I like to popularize the written Taiwanese language. And I am always interested in language. And I am a physician, but I live in America for 50-some years, 53 years.
At all. I don't read the music. Although I have a son that's a PhD in. Learn to play guitar, which I've never tried before.
All my diary in my. So I think that's what gives me a lot of materials that I would write it because they're only written in Chinese, right? So I like to write them up and so I can pass it to my children.
Thank you, Charlene, for your talk. It was very enlightening. We're just amazed. We're just cackling back there, the NATWA2 group, at how not only are you able to do all these amazing things, but also save so many farmers from poverty. And then Joanne made the comment, wait till she becomes a mom. Your first co-lever is an equalizer. You're one of us. I guess that's the venture in my journey was I'd done the drive down from Berkeley to LA before as a single person, but as a mom with 2 kids, oh my gosh, that was really comfort zone. So thank you.
I would like to one day abandon my husband and go to Africa. And the reason I want to help people get some clean water to drink. Myself, I'm so afraid. I wish one day I have the courage to experience skydiving.
今嘛是做个人咧花园吼，所以我即马我退去迄边，退去迄边，所以我即马伊迄边跟我玩叫，我会叫迄边 ，OK？
Just have a quick inspiration from you. Thank you. I heard from yesterday's Taiwanese history and literature and all those things, and as we all know, without language, our race is finished. So I think I have an idea of setting up a website like Wiki Taiwanese. So all the Aborigines people or whoever in your family can still remember some stories, the songs you sing, or the words you say. Just submit it to the website, either the Wiki Taiwanese site or Wiki Formosa site.
And I will go with my daughter to get my granddaughter.
Thank you for sharing. This speech has actually been hearing the many dreams that you have and the ways in which you already go beyond your comfort zone and plan to do so. It's really inspirational to me, and I hope that a year from now, at the next NATWA convention, you can share with each other all of the achievements that you accomplished over the past year. So I wanted to also celebrate and appreciate all that you have done for me too, from my parents and getting to meet all of you and seeing NATWA night last night. I'm really inspired, actually. If this is what I'm doing at age 32, if I can take inspiration for you, imagine what I can be doing in 30 years, dancing here on stage, acting. So I'm very relieved to know that even as my life goes on, I can still be full of energy and full of life. So I would leave you with this, is a constant encouragement, not to just, but to truly live your life alive. Thank you so much.
咱即马有一点仔时间，所以若还佫有 question， 会当 make can ask question. We still have a little bit of time, so if anybody want to ask question or make some comment, or we can do it.
你要学中文，从现在开始，应该给你爸爸妈妈鼓掌。我觉得你的 bucket list 最 challenge 是 pick up a boy as your husband， 你就会知道 how hard it is, and it's a lifelong explore. I hope someday you will celebrate. In
the child, can you share with us? Because that's the most important thing, because we don't know how to overcome our difficulty. Good question.
I mean, I think that everyone handles stress or obstacles in different ways. I think for me, grounded is just trying to remember what's important. And it sounds very cheesy to say, don't sweat the small stuff. But I think truly what has helped me gain perspective is just realizing that whatever I'm going through at the time is really not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. I think I've been really blessed that I haven't suffered a lot of challenges, either physically or emotionally. But I think for me, I just try to get perspective and say, you know what, this really isn't that big of a deal, and just to know that you're going to live another day and see tomorrow, and that also, even through all the challenges, I actually believe that you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes, and you learn more from bad managers, which I've had many of, than from your good managers. So I try to take every experience as a learning opportunity that I can apply to future experiences. But I think also, my faith is really important to me, and that's something that also keeps me grounded, just knowing that I'm just a little person in the universe, and there's so much more going on.
Good.
I'm hoping great talk. I have a question for you, actually, it's two-part. I'm curious about your change in worldview once you travel. I mean, I guess a lot of us who don't travel around the world may have a certain perception of what we hear about other parts of the country through the world thinks or understands of us, the Taiwanese people.
Gorgeous question, thanks for that. About how my worldview has changed. I mean, I hope to share with you just a glimpse of how, by the image of Africa as most people see it and then the image of Africa as I've seen it and I know it exists. I think I've seen a lot more of the opportunity. So, you know, particularly in Africa and other developing countries where people really focus on the negativity. They focus on the war, the political corruption, the disease, the poverty. You know, I see the positive. So I think now when I travel to other places in the world, especially in developing countries, it's really eye-opening. So instead of seeing poor people as poor and that being the only identity which defines them, I see them as who they are. Their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers, their parents. You know, they are farmers, they are entrepreneurs. So I think that's the way in which my worldview has really changed in terms of how I see developing countries and the people in them. I think in terms of how the world views us, I mean, in my opinion, I don't see a lot of Dawanlang, or actually many Asian Americans in my kind of work. I'm one of the few Asian Americans that I've ever encountered working in Africa over the last few years. And that's always sort of saddened me. I mean, it comes from a place of, I understand, you know, I started my talk by asking you what you dreamed your children would become. And the truth is that many parents don't really dream of their children going into the social sector or going into the nonprofit sector because, well, it's not profitable. So, you know, in that sense, I felt really grateful to have the opportunity, and I hope to inspire other Asian Americans and other Dawanlang to, you know, they don't have to move to Africa, but just to give back to the community in some way, because I do feel that we are really blessed, and I want the world to see Taiwanese people and Asian Americans as giving back, because, I mean, if anything, you know, with our talents and our intellect and the work experience, I mean, all the skills that we have can really be used to change the world. So whether you're a doctor or, you know, a nonprofit manager in Africa, I mean, I think there's just so much that my generation and your generation still can do to serve the world.
Hi, Sharon. I'd like to mention to you about the real song for you. I wish you be a first Taiwanese lady married to 3 husbands, and that would really satisfy your parents.
Charlene, mind worried?
I mean, I thought growing up in North Carolina that I had a fairly confused identity. You know, of course, I've come to really, really embrace and be so proud of being Taiwanese and American. So I identify myself as Taiwanese American. But in Africa, I'm often perceived as white. So often children and adults will shout "Mzungu, Mzungu" at me, which is basically the word for foreigner or white person. So I find it funny that in Africa I'm actually perceived as white. Although in some of the countries where I didn't actually focus my talk very much on the work that China is doing in Africa, in so-called development, infrastructure, etc. But there are countries that do have more exposure to the Chinese because they're there building roads and extracting minerals, etc. So that's where I get some of the discrimination, which is like, you know, ni hao, or ching chong, sort of discrimination. But yeah, so I was perceived as both white and as Chinese, and then last, I think, as American, unless I speak English.
I've had a lot of friends who've been on Peace Corps to different countries in Africa, and they often come back quite discouraged about their experiences. And I'm wondering, you know, it seems like you've had very positive experiences. Do you think it's unique to Kenya? Or is it, just how Kickstart is doing the work there?
That's a great question. I mean, I've actually probably painted mostly a rosy picture of the work that I do in Africa. I did mention some of the discrimination I face, and it is challenging. I mean, I think there are a lot of Africans and people in developing countries who don't want help. They don't really want aid, and they've been kind of through many decades since independence of foreign aid that's not effective and it's more like charity. And so I think there's always a tension between development workers and sort of the local nationals. I think for me, I've even experienced some challenges in the workplace where colleagues might resent the fact that I'm coming from the U.S., as if I know better or something. So I think one thing that's really helped me to be successful in Africa is to be humble. And that's one thing I've really learned from being Taiwanese is humility. And so I always try in the workplace to say, I'm not claiming to be an expert. I don't know any better than you. You tell me what works for Kenya, what works for Ghana, what works in Tanzania. And so I always try to take an approach of learning first before I try to teach. And I think that's definitely a Taiwanese value that has really served me well in Africa.
And then my comment was just to say thank you. I have a little boy, and so I often think about how I'm going to raise him. My parents raised me to be very risk averse, so I became a lawyer, and I now assess other people's risk. But hearing your story really inspires me to go beyond my comfort zone, which is to allow him to be who he is. So thank you very much.
Say thank you very much to you. Yes, by using the Swahili, I would like to understand. I'm so inspired with all your presentation because I know your parents so well. And I know you at least 2-3 years, I still remember we have a dinner together. I can fully understand or fully sympathize how Dr. Chen feel about his comment, because I do have a similar situation. I'm not trying to tell you to going beyond this comfort zone, because my discomfort zone is over now, because my daughter has been in India for 8 years. In outreaching for those youngsters who was victimized by human trafficking. So I do believe, I feel very comfort now, not discomfort. And one thing I would like to say, with all your energy, with all your compassion, as a Taiwanese American parent, I would say you are such a great model for those young generation. And I would like to encourage all the existing parents in this room, get out of your discomforting zone. Let your second generation do whatever they can do to unleash what they already do. Okay, thank you.
Really good point, and that's actually something I should have included. I am eternally grateful to my parents who, they don't necessarily love the idea of me being a Michu, and my mom is always saying, Paka o Mima.
Paka o Mima.
Dark-skinned and working in tough areas, but I really wouldn't be where I am today without my parents. And through that support that Uncle was talking about, that really, if you feel that your children are pursuing non-traditional careers, and whether it's here in the States or abroad, I mean, it's been life-changing. And really, if you're not just the one changing the world, please empower your children to also change the world, because it's really changed my life, and I can't wait to see what the rest of my life holds. Thanks to my parents.
We had an appreciation certificate for Charlene and a gift also.
爸爸妈妈出来。
们。
Okay, I will send you quick and like你看这晒照片是到了比较小，accomplish a lot.
Very inspiring.
Well, your mom sees me every year, and she say, "Mama." No, I take it. Excellent.
特效。
I take it as a compliment.
I'm so proud. 真情的告白。